not gonna give in. I'm not playing a fucking mess. I'm not scared around you. You can't use that shit on me. Happy and free. Powerful positivity. Say what you believe in. Try fighting uphill with me. Avoid the dangers of conformity. A lighter with no action. Destroy this corporate thing.
How's it going? Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you all had a great 4th of July / Independence Day. We had a fantastic 4th of July. We got to hang out with some of our church friends at our new church in Florida, and we had a really fun time. Florida is beautiful. The neighborhood that we were driving in was so patriotic. It was just awash in American flags and American flag bunting. It's actually a lot of fun to see. I haven't seen any of that stuff in a really long time. It reminded me of what it was like when we would celebrate the 4th of July when I was a kid, which was a great blast from the past. So really, really fun to see that again, and really great to hang out with people who share our values much more so than they have in any of the other states we've lived in so far. Excuse me. It is very hot here. It might surprise you guys to learn. It does get warm in Florida, and it is July, and I think that yesterday was one of the warmest days we've had this summer. I just assumed moving to Florida that it was going to be super freaking hot, and I was not wrong, but I guess this last week has been especially warm, so we're just going with the flow. We're really going to enjoy it when it cools down. I'm going to be especially grateful because this heat is making me tired, and it's making me feel like I'm in my 3rd trimester, not my 2nd trimester. Your 2nd trimester is supposed to be super easy. You're supposed to feel better and have more energy. But since moving to a really hot climate, that has not been the case for me. But I hope all of you guys were able to celebrate with all your family and friends. I hope you all value that stuff as much as we do. We got some cool stuff to talk about today. We are going to talk about the mysterious white powder found at the White House. We're going to talk about where the polls stand as we look forward into 2024. Finally, we have put Biden in his place, which is at least in 2nd place. So we will talk about that. We're going to talk about that strange powder at the White House. We're going to talk about whether we're ever going to figure out who did it. I know that you guys have no idea who did it. I don't either. Politico tells us that we may never find out who did it. And other such news. We have, the Daily Wire is reporting on, the National Institute for Health has a $3 million grant to expand medical transition for minors. We're going to talk about Ben and Jerry's. We're probably going to touch on, the they-them resumes. And we will talk about a worker at a grocery store who was fired for recording people shoplifting. So that's fun. Andy is in chat. Awesome. He says, retweet me, please. Let's see what he says. I can't retweet myself. I can't even like it. This makes me feel so strange. You guys are more than welcome to go over and retweet Andy. He knows what he's tweeting about. Tonight, Trump finally beats rotting lifeless corpse of previous president in polls. Thank you, dear, for saying that on my account. I appreciate that. Although that is exactly what is happening, and I'm very glad it finally is. I can't believe it took this long. Hopefully this trend continues going into election season. All right, let's get started talking about that. Let me see where the right camera is. There we go. Trump leads Biden in swing states that will decide the 2024 election. And before I say any more, I'm going to keep saying what I've been saying for a really long time. These polls are super, super early. Let me get my camera right. There we go. Super, super early. And I don't trust polls much at the best of times because you can really make them say whatever you want them to. Like we found out with Hillary, who said she ought to be 50 points ahead, but she wasn't, unfortunately for her. And it turns out that you can really ask people questions in such a way that makes them give you the answer that you're looking for. So let's read this and see if it gives us any kind of reassurance that this is actually the case. I cannot believe, never in my wildest dreams did I think that it would be hard to challenge Joe effing Biden. That is his middle name. But I do think that finally the tides are turning and people are starting to notice that maybe he's not doing a very good job. We'll see. We'll see if this sticks. New poll spells disaster for president with a third-party candidate, Cornel West, taking away votes he needs to win. So this is less about Donald Trump and more about independent voters. And I personally don't think it's as much about Cornel West as it probably is about Bobby Kennedy. So let's read. Amid doubts over the aging president's fitness for office, the former commander-in-chief has picked up the lead in battleground states. Trump's ahead of Biden, who won states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia in 2020. Biden picked up victories in swing states to power ahead to win 270 electoral college votes. Yes, we know. The voter survey conducted by Echelon Insights found that 48% of swing state voters would back the 77-year-old real estate mogul in next year's vote. Pollsters who interviewed 1,020 voters for the study said just 41% would back Biden over the former president. Cornel West, a left-wing academic who has declared his intention to run for the White House, is currently picking up 3%, the same survey said, peeling off potential Democrat voters from the current commander-in-chief. We are going to look up what Bobby Kennedy Jr. is picking up right now because I'm really curious. I don't think Cornel West is a deciding factor here. Although I appreciate and respect Cornel West, he's a very smart man. He's also a little bit of a radical, and I don't agree with him on a lot of things. Bobby Kennedy has been getting a lot of traction because he's been willing to go on shows like Joe Rogan and having a lot of good time with just talking about his beliefs, which is really kind of unusual for a politician. That's something I wish that Ron DeSantis would do. I wish he would go into enemy territory and kind of mix it up with them, because I think that would not only be entertaining because they are calling him worse than Trump at this point, and it didn't take them very long to get there. We knew this was going to happen. Everybody's worse than Trump. Trump was worse than Hitler. Other people are going to be worse than Trump, who was worse than Hitler, on and on and on and on. A spiraling circle of lunacy and melodrama from the left. West says he will guarantee good wages and education for all while ending poverty across America. That's very possible for a politician to accomplish. Third candidates can be potential spoilers in U.S. presidential elections, like the Green Party's leader, Jill Stein, who ran against Hillary Clinton in 2016. Interesting. No one's thought about her much since 2016, but I bet Hillary Clinton sure has. Oh, here we are. Here's Joe Biden after he collapsed, and 3 different people are helping him up. Fresh doubts have been raised about Biden's fitness for office after a string of high-profile slip-ups, or you could just say slips. Look at this lady. She's like, what on earth is this? What's going on? And here we go. Donald Trump, who's only 4 years younger than Joe Biden, is looking a lot better and healthier. Trump lost key swing states to Biden in 2020, which handed victory to the Democrat. Biden has committed a number of high-profile gaffes in recent months that have prompted fresh questions about whether he can complete a second term. Of course he can. Nobody believes he can. Honestly, I can't believe the other day we were reading an article about how Jill Biden convinced Joe to run again. And I was going to say, if we're calling any politician's wife Lady Macbeth, like they were with Casey DeSantis, they should probably level that fire at Jill Biden instead. The 80-year-old made a bizarre attack on NATO ally Britain by claiming his recent visit to the island of Ireland was to ensure that the Brits didn't screw around over the Good Friday peace agreement that largely ended years of sectarian fighting in Northern Ireland. What? That's nuts to me. He also ended a speech on gun control by proclaiming God save the Queen, man, an incredible 9 months after the late British monarch's death. That's not a joke. That's a gaffe. That's bizarre. That's a sign of dementia. The president was able to win the 2020 election after flipping the key swing states of Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia. Picking up those votes can be the key to winning the White House. Right. California had the most electors, 54, while Alaska has just 3 of the 538 electors in total. Cornel West says he's running as a candidate for the left-wing People's Party and promises to end poverty, mass incarceration, while guaranteeing housing, healthcare, education, and living wages for all. So he's incredibly pie in the sky. And I have to say, I appreciate it. It's good to be like idealistic, but holy cow, I don't see him winning or coming even close. But I'm optimistic that he will pull those votes away. Now let's look over here and see what Bobby Kennedy is pulling. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Polling. Yes, there is something wrong with his voice. We looked at earlier, Andy and I, because I was really curious. Yeah, RFK Jr. has surprising support among Joe Biden voters. Robert F. Kennedy's Jr. decision to run for the 2024 presidential nomination is supported by 31% of eligible voters who backed Joe Biden in the 2020 election, according to a new survey conducted exclusively for Newsweek. With just 20% opposed. That's insane. That's crazy. Yeah, so I think the Daily Mail is a little bit off in this analysis. I do not think it's Cornel West. In fact, let's see where RFK is stacking up against Joe Biden right now. Potential Democrat knees polling today. All right, so we have 538. Let's see if they give us what we want. So we have... This is not what we want. We don't want Hillary Clinton. Oh, I guess we do. June 26, 2023. Hillary Clinton is declining. Interesting. Okay, so Kennedy. Yeah, see, Kennedy has 17% of the vote here. Kennedy also has 17% of the vote here. Whereas Harris polling has Clinton at 17% of the vote as far as the Democrat nominee goes. Now, here Kennedy's given 9% of the vote, 15%, 8%. These are actually really big numbers for a potential competitor to an incumbent. That's nuts, okay? So we'll see what happens. I'm just saying, I don't think it's Cornel West causing this trouble. RFK Jr. is in a heck of a lot better shape than probably either Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I know we only saw him do a few push-ups the other day, but I would challenge any of you guys to refresh my memory as to when we ever saw Donald Trump do anything remotely physically active like that. I appreciate that in a leader. I think that you need to have that physical stamina to be able to lead the country. And I think he's only 69, so he's a good 8 years younger than Trump. And I want to say like 11 years younger than Biden, something like that. It's further 33% replied. It is a further 33% that replied they would opt to back a different Democratic candidate, with 7% stating they were unsure. Right, okay, so that would be where Bobby Kennedy would come into the picture. The Echelon Insights poll was conducted with 1,020 likely voters between June 26th and 29th, blah, 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 don't really care. Very interesting. I hadn't seen much about Cornel West lately. I've seen much more about RFK Jr. So that's why I felt a need to bring him in. But I will say that part of the reason that Joe Biden's kind of struggling right now is for reasons like this. This is from Politico. This is an insane headline. Utterly insane. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but a mysterious white powder was found in the West Wing of the White House over the course of, I think they found it on Sunday. When the Biden family was at Camp David, it was found by a security officer, and I think it was found in an office, or a library. White House cocaine culprit unlikely to be found, according to a law enforcement official. So you know what this tells me is that they're never going to figure out who did this because they don't want to. They don't want to at all. And it makes sense to me why they don't want to at all, because it clearly implicates Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. I'm sorry, somebody had to say it. I know no one else was saying it except every single person on Twitter that I follow was cracking jokes about, oh, where's Hunter? You know, Hunter's been there, blah, blah, blah. And I believe that he had been at the White House recently, so not surprising. They are choosing to make jokes like this. Lines may have been snorted and crossed, but it's possible we won't know by whom. Yeah, right. Okay, so because there's no security at the White House, there are no cameras at the White House, there are no security guards, no one has seen anything, you know, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. We will never find out who it was because they have a vested interest in protecting the Biden family. As we saw, watching the Department of Justice figure out how to tap dance around charging Hunter or not charging him or giving him the biggest possible sweetheart deal. Law enforcement officials confirmed Wednesday that cocaine was found at the White House over the weekend, but one official familiar with the investigation cautioned that the source of the drug was unlikely to be determined, given that it was discovered in a highly trafficked area of the West Wing. Right, okay, so it could have been anyone, really. I mean, we don't even know of anyone who's done cocaine in the recent past and who would be in the White House within the last weekend or so. The small amount of cocaine was found in a cubby area for storing electronics within the West Executive basement entryway into the West Wing, where many people have authorized access, including staff or visitors coming in for West Wing tours. Asked what the chances were of finding the culprit, the official said that it's going to be very difficult for us to do that because of where it was. Right. There's definitely no camera evidence. Even if there were surveillance cameras, are there not surveillance cameras of this particular area? Because that's a very interesting admission to make. Do you really want to expose the White House as having an Achilles heel as far as someone getting in or out? Pretty sure you don't want to do that, but this is exactly what they're doing here because they are unwilling to demonstrate that they know who could have done this. Unless you are waving it around, it may not have been caught by the cameras, added the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity given that it's ongoing. It's a bit of a thoroughfare. People walk by there all the time. During her Wednesday briefing, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre confirmed Politico's reporting that the cocaine was found in an area heavily traveled by staff and visitors. She also emphasized that President Joe Biden and his family left Washington on Friday and returned Tuesday in time for the White House's annual 4th of July celebration. So, Hunter Biden was at the White House in the days leading up to this. This is wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. Yeah, we'll never know who it was. There's no way we'll ever find out. It will just be a mystery forever and ever and ever. Sorry, guys. I know you guys were looking forward to it. Thankfully, Senator Tom Cotton is kind of on the case. I really appreciate his work. I don't necessarily appreciate his support for war, but Senator Cotton grills Secret Service on whether the White House cocaine culprit will be arrested. Senator Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, pressed the Secret Service on unanswered questions regarding the cocaine discovered in the White House and whether any arrests will be made. A powdery substance was found inside the West Wing of the White House by a member of the Secret Service, prompting an evacuation of the building. And from my understanding, they also kind of shut down the whole block. The Secret Service confirmed with Fox News Wednesday that the mysterious white powder tested positive for coke. Now Senator Cotton is demanding answers. Good. According to public records, the Secret Service has not yet confirmed where in the West Wing the cocaine was found. I urge you to release that information quickly, as the American people deserve to know whether illicit drugs were found in an area where confidential information is exchanged. It sounds like it was not found in an area where confidential information was exchanged, so that's good at least. He tweeted, Congress and the American people deserve to know how cocaine got into the White House. Let's read his letter. I write, regarding the Secret Service's recent discovery of white powder reportedly confirmed to be cocaine inside the White House. According to public reports, the Secret Service has not yet confirmed where in the West Wing cocaine was found. If the White House complex is not secure, Congress needs to know the details as well as your plan to correct any security flaws. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. So in this Politico article, they're just saying, even if we had camera footage of this area, you would have had to have been waving it around. So you're literally just confessing that someone could sneak pretty much anything into the building itself and you wouldn't know. You wouldn't have evidence to track them down. There would be no way to discover who they even were. They could really just come and go as they pleased and take in whatever they wanted. Please answer the following questions as soon as practicable, but in any event no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, July 14th. Further, please contact my staff to arrange a briefing on this matter, as well as to the provision of any answers that are classified or law enforcement sensitive. 1. Who has access to the White House complex without passing through any security screening? Please provide a complete list of all such individuals. Great question. Willing to bet Hunter Biden is definitely on that list. 2. Who has access to the White House complex while subject to lesser security screening requirements than the most complete screening required of individuals accessing the West Wing? Please provide a complete list of all such individuals along with a description of the lesser screening requirements and reasons such individuals are not subject to full screenings. Excuse me. Heartburn again. It's always with me. 3. The Secret Service's annual report for FY 2022 notes that the Secret Service Personnel Screening K-9 program screens approximately 10 million visitors to the exterior of the White House each year. How many visitors to the interior of the White House are screened by the Secret Service's K-9s each year? Please provide a description of the circumstances under which the Secret Service chooses not to use K-9 screenings for West Wing visitors. He's being very thorough, and I truly appreciate this. 4. In the past 5 years, how often have the Secret Service encountered illicit drugs at the White House complex? That was my question. Now, I haven't seen anything in the mainstream media about that. And that the first thing that they would be saying, if this were a common thing, they'd be just like, this happens all the time. It's not a big deal. We have, heroin in the White House. No one ever thinks anything of it. If so, that's crazy, because I personally have never been in an environment where hard drugs have ever just been lying around for any reason. I cannot imagine the White House, of all places, one of supposedly the most secure places in the country, being one of those locations. How often were these drugs detected during security screenings? That's a good question. And how often were these drugs encountered inside secure areas? All right, 5. Section 3056A of Title 18 U.S. Code provides members of the U.S. Security Armed Forces Division with the authority to make arrests without warrant for any offense against the U.S. committed in their presence or for any felony cognizable under the laws of the United States if they have reasonable grounds to believe that the person to be arrested and has committed or is committing such felony. Illegally possessing cocaine is a crime under federal law. If the Secret Service discovers the identity of the individual who brought the cocaine into the White House complex, will they make an arrest under this provision? Oh my, he's very well read in the rules about this stuff. I'm sure they don't like that. And 6, how often does the Secret Service audit its security procedures for the White House complex and adjust those procedures to correct potential flaws? Please provide details regarding the most recent complete audit, including whether it was conducted by the Secret Service or another entity. Thank you for your prompt attention to this. That is great. Those are all wonderful questions. The first comment, of course, is drug test Hunter. No way that is ever going to happen. They literally don't want to know if this was Hunter. That is the last thing they want. They want to keep their hands clean of this for sure. All right, and then they just go on to summarize everything that Tom Cotton was asking in that brief we just read. And honestly, I'm very grateful that he's asking these questions because someone's got to do it. Because apparently our security apparatus is completely uninterested in actually finding out the truth about this. So, surprising absolutely no one. I don't know what to say. You guys let me know what you think about cocaine in the White House. I'm personally very grossed out, but I have to say this is completely in line with everything that I expect from the Biden family, including, let me see if I can find this video. There was a video where the Biden family was standing on a balcony for the 4th of July, I think it was. And Hunter Biden appears to be doing a hit of something. Let's see. Standing on a balcony. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, okay. So let's see if they mention anything about this in this Washington Examiner piece. No guarantees, just something I'm pulling off at the last second. Hunter Biden, son of President Joe Biden, was seen on the balcony of the White House during the fireworks display on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The younger Biden has been in the headlines recently after allegations by IRS whistleblower something, and I just lost it. Thanks, Washington Examiner. IRS whistleblowers that criminal investigations into the first son have been tampered with. Yes, firsthand evidence. Hunter Biden was seen on the balcony with his wife Melissa, his daughter Finnegan, and his son Beau. Also present on the balcony were President Joe Biden and Jill Biden. Yes, so interesting. I really want to see if they mention what it looks like he's doing there. They don't. How fascinating. All right, let's scroll Twitter a little bit and see if we can find it. Oh, yeah. If Don Jr. was caught snorting coke on the White House balcony, the entire Trump family would be moved to an underground bunker. I don't know about that. Oh, yeah. Here's another question. Do you guys see Hunter Biden doing the cocaine shuffle on the White House balcony on the 4th of July? Very disrespectful, as Trump would say, I'm sure. Okay, here it is. Yes, this is interesting. Look. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to mute it so we can, because I really want to. So here's Hunter behind his stepmom, right? He's hanging out. Reach up, reach up, reach up. Oh my gosh. What does he have in his hand? He brings up both his hands. This is driving me crazy. It looks like he has something in his right hand, and then he brings up his right hand and his left hand together. I need a drug expert in here immediately to talk to me about this. This is insane. That's literally what it looks like he's doing. So if you take it real slow, see? Look at that. Look at that. What is that? What is that? Oh my gosh. I'm losing my mind over here. All right, let's continue here. All right, so we got one hand up to the face. We don't see the other hand. Oh, there's the other hand coming up. What's it doing? What's he doing over there? Don't you dare compare Jill Biden to Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper is a fine, upstanding rock star gentleman who's been married for like 50 years. He's a Christian. He has a bunch of kids. He's a fantastic role model. Jill Biden is crumbs compared to him. He's awesome. I used to love listening to his radio show. Here goes Hunter's arm. What is he doing? He's got his arm all the way up. That's wild. Joe is just smiling. So he would be seeing whatever Hunter is doing back here. Jill is stoically oblivious. Oh my goodness. Andy says those days are behind me, Dove. I wasn't talking about you, dear. I don't want anybody's input on hard drugs whom I know personally. Okay, here come the hands down. Oh my gosh. Andy thinks it's very unlikely that Hunter is doing... What? Oh, he's like tapping the side of his nose. Blue says, I think he was sneezing or had a small cough. Sure, but I want to know what this was. I want to know what this is in his other hand, because that is not a tissue. I'm going to entertain the idea because it's so crazy, and everything about this family and everything about being in the office is so nuts that I just can't cope with the idea of him just doing a bump right in front of everyone. Maybe he's like clapping his hands. Maybe he's taking a call. We should be a little skeptical, admittedly. I don't know, man. I don't know. Oh, yeah, Larry says Alice is out on tour this summer with Rob Zombie at 76 years old. Alice Cooper is truly a gem. Like, he is sober, he's clean, he plays golf. That's his hobby. I used to listen to his radio show, Nights with Alice Cooper, every night, and I didn't know anything about him. I just thought he was awesome. He actually was a really good role model, and I love the stuff he talked about because I really liked that kind of music when I was younger. I still do. It's very classic. Yeah, see, did Hunter Biden do a bump on the White House balcony? We don't know, see? And I don't really like the idea of pushing these kinds of theories, but I gotta be honest. Let's be real, guys. This family is messed up beyond repair, and I just don't know that there's any saving them, and I feel bad for them. But at the same time, they're incredibly corrupt, and they're just kind of... I feel like we deserve what we're getting right now, honestly. I really don't think there's a better way to put that, unfortunately. Jill Biden looks just like him. So Jill isn't related to him, I don't think. I think Jill is Joe's second wife. I think she's his stepmom, but I could be wrong about that. Andy says, yeah, let's see them fingernails. Yeah, I'd like to see that that famed pinky nail. I had residents that I used to take care of that would talk about having a long pinky nail for working with the material in question. And I speak very much as someone who is completely innocent of all this stuff. I've never done anything remotely interesting like that. The only thing I've ever done was like CBD and other stuff that was legal in the state that I lived in well after the fact. And I did not even drink until after I was legally able to do so. But just really interesting. I don't know. I despair of that whole family, and I really hope that the Democrats start to view them as too much of a liability. Stuart says he is definitely not using Diet Coke. Yeah, Kanye Ron says Hunter hates his stepmom. I did see those text messages conveying a certain disrespectful tone from Hunter to his mother. So there's definitely some beef there. But I understand. Larry says, I can't feel pity. They did it to themselves. Yeah, that's fair. They did decide to be in the public eye and stuff like that. Oh yeah, Whisper says it's been steamy here in Florida. Unhighly Snipe says I've got to get 10 dehumidifiers. Yeah, for sure. What's up, Lids? Howdy, Decap. Appreciate your presence. Welcome to Florida. Yes, I'm loving it. I am loving it, even though it makes me tired. All right, we're going to talk about one of my favorite people in politics, which is Rand Paul. Republican senators blast the National Institute of Health for $3 million grant to expand medical transitions for minors. And this is an interesting scoop that the Daily Wire found recently. So Spencer Lindquist, you probably haven't heard his name. He is an on-the-ground reporter for The Wire, and he broke this earlier today, and it did not receive as much attention as I think it should have. The National Institute of Health has agreed to spend more than $3 million in taxpayer funds to expand access to sex change operations for minors. Okay, minors. Drawing criticism from Republican Senators Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, and Ted Budd. Titled The Trans NIH Research Support, the agreement is between the NIH and the Brigham and Women's Hospital. That's a hospital that I had to use for my neurologist. They're some of the best in the country. Unfortunately, this makes it hard, okay? So I truly believe in the concept of the parallel economy. It's a very, very, very difficult to stick to your principles 100% of the time, especially when it comes to healthcare. Really, really hard, because especially with health insurance. Aetna provides some of these trans surgeries. Kaiser's provided some of them. Then you have Brigham and Women's, which are some of the most highly respected hospitals in the country. And we saw the Mayo Clinic was really getting into it over race stuff with one of their professors. This is serious stuff, and it's very hard to figure out how to negotiate this stuff. And until we have like an actual alternative, it's going to continue to be tough, but I don't really see a way around it, unfortunately. As well as the Children's Hospital Corporation, which does business under the name of the Boston Children's Hospital. Yes, one time I was at the pet store and they asked me if I wanted to give money to the Boston Children's Hospital, and I was like, no. In fact, if you can give me some of the money that was donated to the Boston Children's Hospital, that would be better. Let's do that instead. The deal, which lists an obligated funding amount of $3 million and some other amount, began in September 2021, ends on August 31st, 2023. The nearly $3.3 million plan aims to create a trans health guide intended to expand the local workforce of gender-affirming care providers and advance equity and reduce mental health disparities for TGD youth care. I'm assuming that's something about gender dysphoria. Youth through systemic changes that increase access to gender-affirming care. People between the ages of 13 and 24 are considered transgender and gender diverse youth. Oh yeah, TGD. Okay. As a senator and a physician, I am deeply concerned about the NIH's use of taxpayer money to fund dangerous, controversial youth transgender research, Senator Paul told the Daily Wire. The well-being of our youth is of utmost importance, and subjecting them to harmful and experimental medical procedures is unacceptable. The grant description claims that access to gender-affirming care and family support are known to be critical determinants of mental health outcomes for TGD youth. The project focuses on 5 southeastern states with large Black transgender populations. What? I'm sorry. I need the people putting this plan together to explain to me exactly how large these Black transgender populations are, because I guarantee you they are not actually large, and limited access to gender-affirming care. Additionally, the program includes a free online training course for continuing education credit, as well as a platform to hold consultations with specialists. Senator Rubio joined Paul in condemning the grant. The NIH should not use U.S. taxpayer dollars to encourage or promote transgenderism in children, especially when that means subjecting kids to damaging and irreversible surgeries and hormones. The U.S. government should not overlook or diminish the biological reality that underpins human existence. Thank you, Senator Rubio. Promoting transgenderism among children raises significant concerns about their physical, social, and psychological well-being. We must protect the innocence and future of our children. The Trans Health website goes into greater depth, explaining that healthcare providers will be able to access free training materials and working with transgender and other gender-diverse youth and gender-affirming medical and mental health care. The guide is designed to provide an interactive educational digital platform for TGD youth and caregivers. The site describes the project as a multi-level intervention to improve the health of transgender and gender-diverse youth, focusing on TGD youth of color. Our government should not be furthering the fallacy that chemically transitioning children is safe and effective, said Senator Ted Budd. Taxpayer dollars should not be used to encourage gender transition interventions in young people. The NIH recently came under scrutiny after it was revealed that 2 individuals involved in its study on psychosocial functioning in transgender youth after 2 years on hormones had committed suicide. 5 Republican senators, including Paul, Rubio, and Budd, along with 10 GOP Congress members, sent a letter to the acting director of the NIH, Dr. Lawrence Toback, blasting the study. Rather than shutting the study down after such serious adverse events, the researchers published their paper concluding that the study was a success because cross-sex hormones had altered subjects' physical appearance and improved psychosocial functioning. Boston Children's, which has received heavy criticism over its medical transition of youth, was named as one of the participants in the study. January Littlejohn, a senior fellow patient advocate for To No Harm, blasted the NIH's support of child transgenderism as an outrageous use of taxpayer money, going on to criticize the Medical Research Agency for pushing irreversible, harmful treatment interventions on vulnerable and confused children. Boston Children's lost all credibility when they released videos of their doctors stating children seemingly know from the womb that they are transgender and admitted to performing irreversible gender surgeries on minors. That's right. Dr. Jeremy Carswell, a pediatric endocrinologist and the director of the Gender Multi-Specialty Clinic at Boston Children's, has admitted on camera that puberty blockers are given out like candy and acknowledged that they can cause fertility problems. She also said providers are very, very swayed by our patients in the field of transgender medical intervention. Yeah, so they're allowing themselves to be pulled along by their emotions. That is not the way to make medicine work. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb, Do No Harm's board chair, contrasted the NIH's support for transgender medical interventions with the approach taken by other developed Western nations. What is needed from our government is the same commitment that Finland, Norway, Sweden, and the UK have made to protect children from undergoing these life-altering procedures, he said. The NIH and Boston Children's Hospital did not respond to requests for comment. No surprise there. These are some of the most evil organizations in the country, because the US is one of the only countries that is still doing this in the West, at least for sure. And I am optimistic that we will see an end to this, but I don't know when that will be. I'd be really happy if it were like tomorrow. I'd be really happy if my kids were never exposed to this kind of stuff, but I honestly don't think that, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I will definitely keep it in the top of mind. Now, I wanted to touch on this thread from Lior Sapir. Just talking a little bit about, in a similar vein, a short thread for those writing on pediatric gender medicine on the distinction between doctor expert opinion and evidence-based medicine. Okay. Being a licensed MD does not mean that you understand what evidence-based medicine is or how it works. Med schools do not always teach EBM or even properly train students for how to evaluate a scientific research paper. Evaluating whether there is reliable research to support an intervention and determining whether that intervention is appropriate for a particular patient require two different, though obviously related, kinds of competencies. We assume that individual treatment decisions made by a doctor are always informed by evidence-based medicine. There's tons of evidence to contradict this, though, and not just in the world of gender medicine. So here we have an article from The Atlantic, An Epidemic of Unnecessary Treatment. And the blurb says, long after research contradicts common medical practice, patients continue to demand them and physicians continue to deliver. So because people are insisting on these procedures where it's not required, that is the patients who aren't medically trained and have no background in evidence-based medicine, and doctors are continuing to cave to them. And this is actually something that I saw when I worked at the hospital. There was a very strong undercurrent of the customer is always right. And I always found that to be incredibly scary, because I was like, it's not about what the customer thinks of the service provided as long as they're not obviously being abused. It is about what steps are taken by medical professionals to make sure that the patient is treated in the best possible way and receives the best possible care to make sure that they don't have to come to the back to the hospital anytime soon. The problem is obscured even more by the fact that most experts in EBM also happen to be doctors, thus blurring the crucial distinction between doctor expert opinions and evidence-based medicine judgments. Even doctors who understand EBM and care to integrate principles into their practice may not have time to keep up with latest evidence reviews. Doctors, it turns out, are very busy people. That is very true. The pronouncements of medical associations are based on the opinions of doctors, and typically only a small number of them who serve on relevant committees. There is a reason some doctors may want to serve on committees focused, for instance, on trans healthcare or racial disparities in healthcare. Their opinions may or may not be based on EBM principles. Trusting doctors and medical associations is good. Trusting them blindly and believing they are incapable of being led astray or acting for ignoble motives can lead to serious distortions in the medical system. And he ends with an article from City Journal, whom we love. When it comes to gender medicine, we've already seen examples of doctors showing ignorance about EBM on the record. This first comment says, doctors use science. In general, they don't do science. Very few of them actually try and keep up with the science. That is a good observation to make. And this is something that I learned over the course of my career in healthcare, was that even if you work in the field, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're up to date with everything that's going on in the field, and you don't have to, or you don't have time to keep up on all that stuff, like he points out. So you guys should go and check out his thread. He is at LeorSapir, SAPIR. He has a wonderful thread there. You guys should read the article from The Atlantic probably to get a feel for what goes on in healthcare, because there are a lot of problems there that need to be resolved, that are not partisan, they're not glamorous, but they really need to be fixed if we actually want to help people get better and stay healthy. And of course, city-journal.org is fantastic. And their blurb here says, opponents for Texas' proposed ban on gender-affirming care inadvertently prove why the ban is justified. So that sounds like a wonderful article. We just don't have time to get into it tonight because we're going to pop right on over to this next one, which has actually been the topic of a lot of conversation in this ladies group that I run, that I put together of a few lovely ladies, just kind of talking about being a mom, talking about some of the issues you face when you go to give birth or as you're raising your young child. I hate these ads, but the Daily Mail forces me to see them. Exclusive. CDC accused of blurring politics and science, just like we were just talking about, over advice that suggests trans women can safely breastfeed, but fails to mention health risks to baby. Doctors told DailyMail.com the CDC has a responsibility to disclose health risks. There is no scientific consensus about the nutritional quality of the milk provided to the babies. U.S. health officials were criticized today for advocating that trans women can breastfeed without highlighting the health risks to the baby. This is very interesting too, and Andy and I were talking about this before the show tonight. So there is a lot of talk about how it's perfectly healthy for trans women to breastfeed their infants, obviously not born from them. And Andy points out that yes, it might be okay for the mother figure to breastfeed, but no one has ever done any research on what effect it has on the child in question, the actual recipient of whatever the product is that's being made here. It's disgusting. It's horrible. I'm sorry to bring this to your attention, but I'm glad that they are getting caught in the crossfire for this one because they deserve it. U.S. health officials were criticized today for advocating trans women can breastfeed without highlighting the health risks to the baby. Right. Several information pages on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website appear to endorse chest feeding, a term used to describe feeding an infant milk directly from the chest by trans and non-binary parents. So I cannot begin to describe how much this particular topic revolts me, especially learning about all of the hormones that are behind actual biological functions as fulfilled by actual biological mothers who are biologically female and who have delivered immediately prior, given birth to the child who is then receiving nutrition from them. There is a cascade of hormones that goes through the system to trigger these responses that enable this frankly miraculous operation to take place, and none of them require external drugs like this particular weird interaction does. One section titled Health Equity Considerations, so consider that title, okay? Health Equity Considerations claims an individual does not need to have given birth to breastfeed or chest feed. Another section in Q&A about breast surgery titled Can Transgender Parents Who Have Had Breast Surgery Breastfeed or Chest Feed Their Infants? Says families may need help with medication to induce lactation. But doctors told DailyMail.com the CDC has a responsibility to disclose the lack of research and potential risks. From my understanding, this was based on a study of one individual who was able to facilitate some bizarre kind of lactation for like a series of weeks, right? So we're going to look at two different examples here. We have two trans individuals who supposedly went through with this. So let's read more. I'm excited for this conversation. One of the medications used to produce milk in biological men has been linked to heart problems in babies. They claimed the agency was blurring lines between politics and science. The CDC did not respond to requests for comment from DailyMail.com. American trans woman, Naomi, 24, mother to 3, went viral on Twitter in May for feeding their child milk they had pumped. This is another transgender individual. subjecting their child to what I would describe as nothing less than actual child abuse. Mika Minio-Polelo, who cares, a trans individual from the UK, sparked a national debate about gender and motherhood. I wonder why. After discussing how the soaring water bills were tough if you're a mother. You don't know about being a mother. I'm sorry. Biological men who transition can produce breast milk by taking several hormone drugs that mimic the changes a woman's body undergoes during the late stages of pregnancy and shortly after the birth of a child. But one of the drugs used can pass into the milk in small amounts and can sometimes give babies an irregular heartbeat as a result. The FDA has warned against one of them, domperidone, an anti-nausea drug that ups levels of prolactin, the hormone that encourages milk production. The agency says because of the possibility of serious adverse effects, FDA recommends breastfeeding women do not use domperidone to increase their milk production. Because a lot of moms sometimes have a hard time with increasing milk production, trying to make sure their baby gets enough to eat. They are seriously cautioning against using this drug to try to increase the amount of milk produced. Dr. Jane Orient, executive director of the Conservative Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, told DailyMail.com that we have no idea what the long-term effects on the child will be if breastfeeding trans women use all kinds of off-label hormones. She said a lot of people are pushing for off-label use of a drug. It's become so politicized that you can do all kinds of things for a politically approved purpose. That's right. And that's exactly where we are today. These people, the people in question, are using their children as accessories to prove a point. I am actually a biological female. I can do the things that biological females do. Look, here I am doing this thing to my child against their will without their permission because they are, after all, children. And it's hard to explain how this makes me feel, especially as someone who's about to give birth to my own. It's deeply troubling. Really don't like it. I view this as a continuation of the usage of people as things. Okay, so I love Terry Pratchett. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him or not. He was a British author who got, I believe he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth shortly before he died. He's a fantastic author. He wrote fantasy, science fiction, that kind of stuff, fictional stuff. He said that the definition of sin is using people as things. And the more I think about that, the more true I think that is, because this person is not viewing their child as a child. They're viewing this child as a prop to prove that they are who they are not actually. And I don't really care what YouTube does with this, because they've really been cracking down on this. They've been shadow banning videos and all that other stuff. I don't care. It's not a big deal. That's exactly what this person is doing. And to use another human being, especially someone so small and vulnerable, as someone who's pro-life, it's especially hard to watch. And my heart really goes out to that child. Disturbing, to say the least. But I just want you guys to know that this is going on. You can keep an eye out for this. You can read about it. Incredibly disturbing, but it's only going to increase in frequency. The amount of times this kind of crazy stuff is coming across your screen is going to be more and more frequent. So let's read a little bit about the lighter side of this movement, because there is some stuff we can laugh at. Let's laugh at this one. Resumes including they and them pronouns are more likely to be overlooked in job hiring process, as noted critic of the woke phrase Elon Musk calls findings interesting. Indeed, a business.com report claimed 80% of non-binary people believe that identifying as non-binary hurts their job search. Good. It should. Saying that you're non-binary is a huge red flag. It means that you are woke. And I mean that in a very practical sense. That means you are going to be the kind of employee that employers don't want to deal with. You are going to be in HR's office 24/7. You're going to complain about everyone, man, female, male, female, everyone, literally everyone, all the time. You're just going to be too much of a hassle. It caught the eye of Elon Musk, who has a history of critiquing woke culture and use of they-them pronouns. Musk responded on Twitter, calling the findings interesting. The business.com report resurfaced on Wednesday after it was shared online, and Twitter owner Elon Musk commented on it. Right. The study was based on a non-scientific sending of blind resumes to job employers. The only difference in resumes was the use of pronouns. Those with they, them pronouns that were used by transgender or non-binary people can hurt the job process. When the employers were asked for feedback on the study, several hiring managers revealed blatant biases and even bigotry against non-binary job seekers, according to the report. Are you meaning they said things like, hey, you know what? I wouldn't hire this person because they sound like a liability, not an asset. We don't hire liabilities here. We hire assets because we're a company and we're trying to earn money. The report published in March, right, so this came out a while ago, and I might have touched on it at the time because it was interesting to me even then, but it is getting renewed attention now, obviously. Claimed 80% of non-binary people believe their identity is hurting their job search, and more than half believe their gender identity has affected their workplace experience negatively. Yeah, maybe you should drop it if you want a job. Companies spoke to 400 non-binary individuals discussing their experiences to understand a perceived prejudice against them based on their gender identity. Most of the participants in our study preferred to use they, them pronouns. The researchers sent out 2 identical phantom resumes to 180 unique job postings that were explicitly open to entry-level candidates in an effort to test whether or not the inclusion of gender-neutral pronouns impacts how employers receive resumes. The study included a gender-ambiguous name, Taylor Williams. The only differences between the test and control resumes was the presence of gender pronouns on the test version, according to the report. The test resume included they, them pronouns under the name. In the header, she, him, she, her, and he, him pronouns were not tested. So, not only were they not tested, this works with the assumption that most people who are hiring people are assuming that you're just going to have regular pronouns associated with your biological gender like everyone has until 15 minutes ago. The conclusions show that phantom resume, including pronouns, received 8% less interest than the one without and fewer interview and phone screening invitations. Shocking. To what extent do you feel that identifying yourself as non-binary to a potential employer would affect your job search? 24%, it would very much hurt. 59%, it would somewhat hurt. 11%, it would not affect my job search. 5%, it would somewhat help. 1%, it would very much help. Yeah, so they don't have a privilege here, and they really don't like that. Oh, such bigotry. We're not actually being privileged. That's crazy. One 57-year-old prospective employer in the agriculture industry, no time for BS in the agriculture industry, said while the resume featured a person who seems like a decent fit on paper, they were not interested in the drama that a person who thinks they are they, them brings with them. Yeah, absolutely not. If you work in the agricultural field, you don't have time. Literally don't have time for this. You have way too much to do. And I would have assumed until relatively recently that it would be exactly the same in the military, but apparently that's not the case anymore. Another prospective employer who happens to be a woman in the manufacturing industry said, take off the pronouns. I would trash the resume for that reason alone. Wow, I appreciate their honesty. A hiring manager in the hotel and food service industry said he would recommend applicants take off the pronouns. I find that personal pronouns are quite silly in a job situation. This is better reserved for social settings, not a job setting. The pronouns are off-putting and unnecessary. Get rid of them. You're either a he or a she, another prospective employer. A 36-year-old in the college industry said, according to the report. That is surprising to me. The age and the actual industry. Interesting. According to the report, over 64% of the companies that received these resumes were equal opportunity employers in mainly liberal locations, something that made the results that what they say is worrisome. That's not worrisome at all. I'm so glad people still have a shred of common sense. Ryan McGonigal, director of industry research at business.com and author of the report, said the statistics show just how much progress is needed regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging in the workplace. Okay, yeah, you're wrong about that. Not just Netflix, movies in general, video games, TV, it's all infested with current year trend woke garbage for fear of offending a green-haired freak next to the ban button. Nothing original anymore at all, except for media coming out of places like Japan or Korea, ironically. Elon Musk says, true, yeah. Another tweet says, woke mind virus is the biggest threat to civilization. Elon Musk said yes, and that was in April of last year. The law makes it clear that you cannot base any employment decision, hiring, terminating, or otherwise based on their gender identity, McGonigal said in the report. Well, I'm going to pretend that it's not related to their gender identity and 100% related to their drama identity. Because if you are dramatic, you don't belong in my workforce. I'm just going to have to fire you. And it'll be a pain in the neck to fire you because you will claim that you were wrongfully terminated for reasons that you will then be able to prove as bigotry just because we chose. It's better to not get involved with that kind of employee at all. And I honestly don't blame these employers at all. In October of last year, Musk blamed American woke colleges for turning his transgender daughter, Vivian, against him. Yes, this happens all the time. In an interview with the Financial Times, the world's richest man blamed neo-Marxists and elite schools and universities for the estrangement between him and his child. He added, "It is full-on communism and a general sentiment that if you're rich, you're evil." Yep. Musk blamed the woke mind drivers for making Netflix unwatchable and agreed that it is the biggest threat to civilization. Yeah, 100%. So that's a super interesting study provided by a very biased source. So I'm very glad it's getting more attention. I'm going to just touch on these last three things because we're running out of time here, shockingly enough. Ben & Jerry's had a really super inflammatory 4th of July tweet. It seems like the left goes overboard to say super spicy things on the 4th of July because they hate America. They really do. And I kept seeing like this idea that the people celebrating the 4th of July are, don't realize that it was won by people who had, quote, illegal guns. They're not celebrating the 4th of July at all. They don't celebrate the 4th of July. They don't care about this stuff at all. They hate it. They hate the U.S. They don't love the U.S. They actually have data on this now. They think that the U.S. is a lost cause. They don't appreciate the people who live in the country with them. It's really kind of sad, but it's just a marker of partisan divide. So, shut down and donate all your land to indigenous people. Furious Ben & Jerry's customers vow to never buy the ice cream again after July 4th tweet demanding stolen Native American land be returned to the Lakota. Furious ice cream fans are continuing to call for Ben & Jerry's to face a boycott following the company's controversial July 4th tweet. The message read in part, this 4th of July is high time we recognize the U.S. exists on stolen indigenous land and commit to returning it. Okay, guys, you first. Seriously, you first. And if you guys have been buying Ben & Jerry's this whole time, I feel bad for you, son, because they have been the most liberal company that's ever made ice cream. I swear, they are a liberal company that makes ice cream on the side because they're nothing but activists, and I cannot wait for Ben & Jerry's to get the Bud Light treatment. Really, really excited for this. He says, okay, this should be easy then. Shut down, donate all your land, facilities, and assets to indigenous people. Make Ben & Jerry's John Rich, whom we love and appreciate. Make Ben & Jerry's Bud Light again. That is a great idea. I got 10,000 likes on that one. They probably ratioed the original tweet. I'm not going to show the original tweet. Come on, guys. I hate when they don't do that. Give me the full context. Yeah, so I just thought that was really funny and interesting. Really looking forward. Oh, yeah, see, here's their activism. Here's some more. I appreciate their flavor combinations, but I hate their activism. And for that reason, I never buy their ice cream. Never have. There's this trend among pregnant women of buying half-baked, which is an ice cream flavor from them, when they are half done with their pregnancies. I thought it was a really cute idea, but I was like, oh, it's Ben & Jerry's, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Or I wouldn't have been able to do that in any case because I will never buy anything ever from them. So, King Soopers, which is a Colorado grocery store chain, grocery worker fired for filming shoplifters stealing $500 worth of laundry detergent and unloading it into their car. This is how justice is going in this country. Quote, all I did was record criminals and reveal them. On June 18th, Santino Barola chased a group of thieves from a Colorado King Soopers store. The worker filmed the audacious shoplifters and exposed their license plate. But the store fired him for violating their policy on confronting criminals. Yeah, not surprised. And these are not African American people. These are just white guys. They don't care at all. They're like, all right, let's go for it. And yes, he had their license plate. And I think that this is just, honestly, this feels just like the downfall of the West. And I'm not at all surprised to see this happening more and more. I will say that when I was in Colorado, I used to enjoy going to King Soopers before I would work my night shifts because I worked 6-7 days a week. And I always appreciated having a nice grocery store around. I want to finish on this as a wonderful high point. This is the best possible outcome that conservatives could have possibly asked for. And I just really want to highlight and allow you to soak in exactly what Alex Soros looks like. Do you like his glasses? George Soros' foundation cuts 40% of staff through just 1 month after 92-year-old billionaire handed his empire over to his millennial son, Alex, who looks like the classic beta male feminist. Really is just running the company to the ground already. And honestly, I could not be happier. This is 100% an inside job, and I will be continuing to watch this with great interest because I am so thrilled. George Soros' philanthropic foundation is slashing its workforce almost in half just weeks after his millennial and more political son took the reins of the multi-billion-dollar empire. It's a Fortune paid article, so we're not going to read it because we don't like Fortune at all. But I just thought it was really funny, and I'm going to be looking forward to seeing the crashing and burning of that ridiculous leftist political empire moving forward. Happy to see millennials doing what they do best, and that is crash and burn when it comes to George Soros' money. So, you guys, it's now 8 p.m. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hop on over to Timcast IRL. I appreciate your presence as always. I will see you all tomorrow. Until next time. Oh, wait. Let me read the chat. Okay. He's giving me Pete Davidson vibes for some reason. Yes, that's exactly who he looks like. Blue Reader says California is one of the states that has the most stolen land. I don't see the Dems giving it back. They just put up signs, virtue signaling. Correct. All they want to do is virtue signal. Yep. They only care about North America and Australia being stolen land because it was settled. The most recently with Europe, it would be tribes thousands of years ago. Yes, it turns out that the entirety of history is one group stealing land from another group. That's how history worked. You moved in, you said, all right, this is my land now. I'm here. Deal with it. And that was how it worked. Sorry. Kanye Ron says, I haven't bought Ben & Jerry's for about 15 years. Good for you. Who are these customers who didn't know that Ben & Jerry's was woke AF? Yeah, I feel like this is a great wake-up call that people truly deserved. They should be exercising their newfound power and using their Bud Light muscles on Ben & Jerry's. They deserve to go down. Stuart says men do not also even the antibodies to pass on to children, even if they can lactate, only women do. Yes, there are so many problems with the mere concept that men can and should lactate to feed their offspring that they gave birth to. It gets real fuzzy there. I'm not seeing it. I'm sure this video will be demonetized for my comments on that, but we will see. Let's see here. Any hormone replacement therapy will definitely be passed to the baby, which is obviously unsafe. Yes, in fact, today I learned that they use fentanyl for pain management during delivery, and they said, actually, this can be passed on through the placenta to your child. And I was like, no, I don't care what happens to me. I'm not using fentanyl during delivery. It's not going to happen. They don't care about the children. It is all about themselves, says Keenan. 100% agree. Thank you very much, Matthew, for your super chat with your how's it going avocado. We truly appreciate that. I hope that you guys saw The Sound of Freedom over the course of the 4th of July. That was supposed to be a super awesome movie. I need to watch that for sure and give a review. Stuart says, not much, but some disposable income, Andy, for the flea market. Thank you very much for your kind and generous contribution, Stuart. We truly appreciate your presence. Yes, we are tight this month because we are moving into this new location. Yeah. We do need a dehumidifier. Yes, it's making me look sticky and damp, although I choose to believe that it makes me look like I'm glowing because ladies don't sweat, they glow. Read the super chats. I did, dear. Thank you. I think I read all of them. I got one from Matthew. I got a couple from Stuart. Good stuff. Is there any more? Nope, I think that's it. Yeah, Dippin' Dot coin to the moon. Yes, Dippin' Dot are getting along great. They're always fighting. They're very cute together. If you guys don't follow us on Instagram /THELEITER DIPS, you should do that now. That's where we record everything that Dippin' Dot are up to. All right, you guys, I will see you all next time. I'm very tired. I'm about to go make dinner for Andy. I will see you all tomorrow when we'll talk about more interesting cultural and relevant news stuff. Until next time, bye guys. how's it going?